like I was saying today, I got a really very good, very good, um, a very good study today. Yeah, very good. Hopefully, oh yeah, and if I don't usually say this, I think I've been forgetting to say, but whenever you got a question as well, just throw it in the comments, raise your hand, unmute your mics, talk, do whatever. You can butt in whenever you want. Yeah. And you can ask your question as well. You know, this is what this time is for, you know. So feel free to just, you know, just let's just talk in it, talk out our ideas and see where God leads us. Yeah. So without further ado, yeah, just gonna pray real quick before we get into this. All right. So wherever you're ready, right, let's pray. Father in heaven, I pray that you will speak to us. You're always faithful. You're always so encouraging. You are the author and the finisher of our faith. And what you started in us, some of us just recently, some of us who've been walking with you for a while, and some of us are not even there yet. But Father, you said that you are the author and the finisher of our faith. That means what you start, you will finish. So I pray that you'll finish in us the job that you want us to accomplish in Jesus' name. Give us the truth, send your angels to make things clear to us. In Jesus' name, amen.
Amen.
All right. So, quick question is...
You got a title for this, John?
Yeah, I've got a title, but I didn't want to just bust out the title just like that. You know, I was trying to. But the thing is, I wanted to make it so relatable. Like, the thing is, you know, sometimes when we talk about the Bible and stuff, right, and then we go, my title is X. All of a sudden, I know this happens to me, so this may not happen to you. So if it doesn't happen to you, okay, fine. I'm just doing it for me, right? But enough times when someone gets up, my title is, and then you just psychologically you just go like this,
100.
And you all of a sudden start critiquing maybe the way I'm saying stuff. You know, you start thinking, bro, you know what? I think I left a biscuit in my cupboard. Let me go and search for that almighty chocolate chip biscuit. Yeah, because I ain't gonna miss it. I know the title. You know, and then so I mean. So,
all right, get the point. In other words, no, just leave it. Let the Spirit lead. We don't have to have a title, because you know I'm taking notes in it. I'm taking notes for myself in it. It's all right, cool.
So now watch this now, right? I'm gonna for this time. In fact, let me do it this way. Mike went to a funeral recently. Yeah, I say recently because anything inside 5 years when it comes to a funeral, to you who went to the funeral, you know that's recent.
Yeah.
You know that's recent. So I went to a funeral 2 years ago. Yeah. I was gonna go to one just a few months ago, but because of COVID, it didn't happen. Yeah. Now, this is the thing I realized, and we're not going to stay in the dumps right now, right? But watch this now, watch this. It's Luke. People are just coming in, that's good. So now, watch this now. Mike, when you went to the funeral, yeah?
The one with the young man who was in a car crash.
Yeah. When you went to the funeral, right? Now, as much as you know about God, all the good things you know about God, let's be honest. All of a sudden now, in that environment, who felt like talking about God?
No, that's the only time where I don't like.
Now,
I ain't got the confidence to say much.
Yeah,
It's very difficult.
It's very difficult. Now, No, no, no. I don't mean to
Not because
just,
I don't believe, but because
yeah.
there's other people who you have to be sensitive to where they are, and
Okay.
you know it's not gonna. Well, not you know, but is it really gonna help just saying there's a like really like
Here's,
because they
here's,
yeah.
here's what happens. Here's the deal. I believe because the funeral is so real, because it's a trial. Let's just call it a trial, right? Just to be, you know. But it's so real. It's so not theory no more. People's emotions are at a high, or people are feeling really. The feelings they're feeling is so real. It's like you can cut the atmosphere with a knife. That's how deep people are invested emotionally in what's just taken place. Someone has died, and if you open your mouth, you better be saying something right.
Mm.
It's a situation where you can't pretend. Even people who may not even care for the person who has passed. If they're there at the funeral, they have enough sense to know I'm not just gonna say anything. I'm not gonna try and pretend like I have the answer. And watch this now. Watch this. It's because you know, yeah, that now it ain't no mess around time. I ain't just gonna say something willy nilly, because there's people who are genuinely here who are suffering so keenly that I better say something correct. And I thought to myself, now that's a good attitude to have, right? Nobody's gonna complain that we behave that way. Even the Christian comes there and he's like, oh, boy, I don't know if I'm gonna say anything, boy, I better. So it's something that we all relate to, yeah. So then I thought to myself, so then why don't we judge then our normal lives, or judge, yeah, why don't we take our normal lives as real as that when we come to God? What do I mean? Let me explain it this way. So let's say you're going through, let's just use one that we can all relate to. Let's say you have a bill to pay, you ain't got the money, right? Or you ain't spoken to your friend in a while, yeah, and it's really burdening you, yeah, something like that. Or you're looking for a job and it's tough, it's hard. Or you have a job and you want to look for another one because the one you have, you don't like it, and not paying you enough, don't appreciate you, having to deal with some just politics, and you don't like it. So you go through these things. Now watch this. A lot of times, let's say we come to God, we'll come to church, or we'll come to the Bible, and we're not as genuine, we're not as I forget my word.
Invested.
We're not as invested, yeah, to really get the real answer as we would if it was a funeral. If it was a funeral, there we go. Let me explain it this way. If it was a funeral, you judge people quite harshly, and about, you better say something right when you come to say it. Don't be going up there giving no eulogy and it be fakeries. Don't be going up there saying anything that's out of hand. Go up there sincere. Go up there with some zeal. Go up there some realness, and tell me something that I need to know at this hour of trial. Yeah. But then, when you're there now looking for a job, you do this with God. Yeah, and help me to find a job. Or if somebody's trying to encourage you about, does that even happen? Do you even tell your friends about bills and jobs? I know I don't. I keep that thing on lockdown, boy. Yeah. When people ask me how you do, I'm doing fine. The Lord is blessing me. What? Yeah, fine. Look at me. Big black bags underneath my eyes, but I'm fine. why don't we take, the point is, what we're going through there is just as real. It may not be as deep as a funeral. That's not my point. My point is the care that we have, yeah, is just as real as the care that would surround us when we're in a funeral. So why don't we come to God like the same, in the sense, why don't we come to him as genuinely? Yeah. Why don't we just go, God, this is bothering me so much. Yeah. Do something. And then hold, say, others if they were giving advice, or let's say you're in a study or in your prayer and someone wants to pray, and then they're just like, yeah, and be with brother so and so or sister so and so, it's like, why don't you just judge it harshly? I mean, my words are really bad, right? But I'm hoping you're getting the point, yeah? So I got a hand up from Paula. That's a good.
Hey, can you hear me? You're right.
Go.
Are you talking in respect of what, judging your own life harshly or going to God harshly? Is that what you mean?
Yeah, basically, yeah.
Right. Yeah. Well, it's funny you should say that, because I came back into church just over 3 years ago, and I didn't really understand what it meant to have a relationship with God.
Yeah.
And that's taken some time to get to that point, really. Yeah. And it wasn't until a friend of mine said to me, probably about just over a year ago, because I was going through some stuff, and she says, you know what, do you know you can go to God about anything? I'm like, what do you mean? Because I thought you could only go to God when everything was going good, or do you know what I mean, you felt at peace, or there's no problems, or there's a level of perfection. You're like, oh, I've had a good week, so now I'll go and talk to God now. And then my friend was like, no, even if you're mad, because I was going through some stuff, and I was like, what do you mean? And when she said that, it's like something just clicked, and my relationship got improved, because I've gone to him with the real version of me, not the pastoral prayer version of me.
Yeah.
Me being like, I've had enough today. Do something. And I'm telling you now, the things that I've seen God do since my mentality changed, just by my friends saying that one thing, is just phenomenal.
Wow.
Serious. Phenomenal. You got to be real. You got to be straight. And he'll hear you. He'll hear you more so in those times than when you're trying then to find specific words that are spoken. To me, like you do hear in these pastoral prayers, you think, oh gosh, I can't pray like that. But I've like literally been like, there's an instant where I was shouting at God one time, like, I've had enough, do something. And literally that moment there, that specific moment, this thing lifted out of me.
Wow.
So I know that being real is the only thing that I know in relation to God right now.
Wow. All right. Wow. So, yeah. So Paula, right? Let me just encourage you and those of you listening, yeah, to show you that what that actually is, what you're actually going through, is actually how God actually for real leads us. God does so let me repeat that again. God seldom leads us to have smooth lives. God seldom leads us to a point where it doesn't feel hard for us. God, so imagine this. It's like God's like, right, I got to save them. They've got to be like me. And I promise them an abundant life. But if I leave them to do it, they're going to mash it up. So the only way, it's like the only way to get them to the abundant life where I want them to be, they're going to have to go through some training. Now the funny thing is that more time, like Paul said, more time we think, well, God is leading me when things are going right. That would make sense. If I put an application in for this big bad boy job and I get the job, then boy, God's leading. if I went to, I don't know, do this and do that, and all these things started happening, and everything was good and hunky dory, then God is leading. But that is not only how God leads. God actually leads us by sending us to the gym to work those spiritual muscles. Yeah. So if we go to a verse and I'll ask this question, I'll say, how does God actually, how can we know when God is leading? Yeah. To show that this is not just, words that I've just made up, right? Go to these and we're going to get the principle from what these verses are saying. In Romans chapter 2, yeah, and verse 4, it's not like we're looking specific at what it's actually saying, but trying to see the principle behind it, yeah? And you're gonna see how this comes out. Romans chapter 2 and verse 4. I'll post that in the chat so you don't have to go anywhere. It says this: or despisest thou the riches of his goodness and forbearance and long suffering? Now focus on this last sentence. Not knowing that the goodness of God leads thee to repentance. Repentance means feeling sorry for things you've done wrong. So God leads you to feel sorry for the things you did that was bad. Yeah. God leads you there. God doesn't lead you there to make you feel hopeless. Yeah. God only leads you there to make you see, yeah, your need of him and what he can do for you, make you appreciate what he can do for you. And it's God's goodness, yeah, that leads you there. Just like when you say, I love my granddad, yeah, and when I done some madness in with his dog, right, and the dog peed up and duded up the whole place, yeah, and then because I love my granddad and I saw how disappointed it was, it made me feel bad, and then so I was like, I don't want to make my granddad feel like that anymore, because my granddad loves me, innit, right? He thought we were the best, me and my brother. He thought the world of us, yeah. So that's how God, in his love, in his goodness, leads us to feel the same way. So the principle behind this, though, is this. So when I'm just sitting there feeling sorry and wishing to be better and to do better, I may not even be conscious of the fact, but in that very moment, God is leading me. Here's the principle. So God is working on your heart. Yeah. God works on your heart. So God leads us by simple impressions that are made upon the heart, on our hearts. Yeah. And that impression of feeling bad for something you did wrong, yeah, that's God leading you. So God is able to lead you by impressions he makes on your heart. Yeah, that's the principle. Philippians 2:13, yeah, it says this. Let me paste that as well. All right. It says, for it is God which works in you both to will and to do of his good pleasure. So again, yeah, if you have that feeling to want to do what's right, that's God leading you. So God is able to lead you by literally speaking direct to your heart. Yeah. And so that's how we can know God is leading. So many times when people ask, how do you know God and how do you know this? Now you can say, hold up, because I know, because God speaks to me, by the very fact that I have the desire to want to do what's right, the very fact I feel bad when I do things wrong, it shows that God is working for me. And that's going to come in handy, all the time in your life. When you make mistakes, it's handy to know that at that time when you're feeling bad about what you've done, yeah, that's actually God coming near to you and speaking to you, speaking to your heart to soften it up, to say, look, just come back. Now, this is the bit where it's going to get a bit tricky, where this is, I call it the juicy bit. Yeah?
John, can I give one more on that? God coming near to you. My favorite one.
Yeah, go on.
Psalms.
Paste it in the chat if you can as well.
Let me just find it quickly. Psalms. This is Psalms 34, I believe. Yeah, Psalms 34, verse 18. And then you can continue what you were saying. This one is just so direct as well. It's so key. I love this one. This has saved me loads of times, man. Psalms 34, 18. The Lord is nigh, or close. The Lord is nigh unto them that are of a broken heart, and saveth such as be of a contrite spirit. And the word contrite literally means to be sorry, to have remorse for something that you've done. So God is actually near you when you feel sorry, when you feel regret, when you feel remorse for what you've done. Not far away, as a lot of the times, you know, we feel at the time. And I believe that's just the devil capitalizing upon the fact that God is near. Because he sees the Spirit is drawing near to you and is making you feel your need of him, the devil has to capitalize upon that, because the text says God saves people who feel that contrition. Do you see? So he's going to have to make you feel, no, man, God's left you, man. God's left the building, kind of thing.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So, and the thing is, these principles that we find out about God, they're so important. They're life-saving. Yeah, and I'm going to say it like that. They're life-saving. Yeah. So practically, when you make a mistake, like imagine that we've all been there, where you're on a high, you know, you feel like you're doing what God's asking you to do, or blah blah blah. You know, you feel like life is going well, and then something happens, bam. Yeah. Now, when you make the mistake, right, you feel like, oh my days, oh, everything's lost or whatever. The devil put that into your head, you know, forget it, just give up, just forget it, throw in the towel. But those literal things that enter into your mind to not give up, that's God. So even like I remember talking to a girl who was, you know, she was depressed and, you know, suicidal, everything, you know, and because I shared her experience as well, you know, we were just going back and forth, and I was trying my best to help. And then I realized every time she would throw back something at me, and I said, hold up, you know, you know, when you feel bad and you feel like you want to do all this rubbish stuff, right? Is there even just a tiny element in you, a tiny willingness or a tiny desire to not want to do those ill things, to not cut yourself, to not think those depressing? Is there just a tiny desire for you not to go down that road? And she was like, yeah, of course, every day. And I was like, that's God. No. In the realest sense, you've been asking for God to step in, and he's already stepped in before you even knew it. That's why I'm saying these things are life-changing. Yeah. So when we go on now to the next thing, how God leads us, yeah, I want you to pay particular attention to to this next one, yeah. And God leads. Here's a word that I never knew what it meant, but I looked it up and everything, right? But it says God leads by providence, yeah. God leads by providence, which means stuff that just happens in your life, events that take place, yeah. And God leads by that. Now watch this though. I'm gonna make you a what they call a sharpshooter when it comes to discerning providence. Yeah, gonna make you a sharpshooter so you can be like, yep, that's God. Yep, that's not. Right? Watch this. Go to Hebrews 11. This is gonna give you so much confidence. Yeah, this may not give you confidence now, you know. But when the trial comes, this is going to come to your mind as it's come to mind. Hebrews chapter 11. Yeah. And again, we're not necessarily looking at the whole thing and breaking down the whole thing, but we're just literally taking the stories as they are in the verses and Hebrews 11, and you're gonna see just a very simple thing. I'm gonna ask after we read certain of the verses, right? You know what? Let me just change it to another translation so that what's that one you keep using, Mike?
NLT, New Living Translation.
Yes, because the English in there is more straightforward.
Yeah, it is.
New Living, yeah.
New Living.
Right, watch this.
If you go to Bible Gateway.
Yeah, done. Found it.
Cool.
So now watch this. I'm gonna paste. I'm gonna paste this in there, yeah. Right. That's verse 4. Hebrews 11, verse 4. Now look what it says. It was by faith, yeah, that Abel brought a more acceptable offering to God than Cain did. Abel's offering gave evidence that he was a righteous man. God showed his approval. Yeah, God showed his approval of his gifts. Although Abel is long dead, he still speaks to us by his example of faith. So. Abel had faith, yeah? Abel was being led by God. And what happened to Abel?
He died. He got murdered.
By his own brother. Now I'm telling you.
Yo, that's deep. He exercised faith and got murdered for it.
He was fully led by God, yet he died. Now, not to be macabre or anything, but if we believe this at hours of trial, we wouldn't judge anybody. You wouldn't look at brother so-and-so, what, he got kicked out of church, he's got 3 kids, or he's got women all over the place, and he's this, and then, so when he loses his house, you're like, boy, see, man's not listening, innit? Man's not listening. Or a sister, she had a nice new cat, and the car, and she used to drive it to church proud, yeah, and it was shiny, a nice new cat. And then when she was involved in accident, when now she has to catch bus, I bet you all the Christians be like, boy, boasting too much, you know. The Lord give him, and the Lord take up away. Take up away. You know, you'd be tempted at least to think that. Yeah. I mean, this is what happens when you allow those thoughts to fester and everything. Then when it happens to you, you judge yourself by the same rule.
Wow.
You get that job you're supposed to get. Now you're like, God, though, what's going on?
Wait, John, wait. That's deep, man. Yesterday, that's how I was explaining to I did a live stream on Instagram, and I invited Andrew on Gravel, right? And he was like, yeah, but Mike, why would you feel apprehension to do these lives as regularly as you're doing now? Like all these years, why haven't you done it before? And the analogy I gave him was, if you grow up in an environment where everybody is demonizing certain groups of people for doing certain things, so the drunkards, the party goers, the smokers, the weed smokers, the gangsters, the this, the that, and but you're not doing that, right? So you hear everyone talking about it. I says, you have no idea how you're being influenced until you become the weed smoker. I says, I says, in my life, when I'm now the party goer, all of a sudden now, those views you think were fine now come to your mind. Yeah. And then as you try to step forward for progress, you go, oh yeah, how can I go and then you do this, because now you're on the opposite side of the fence.
Yeah.
Do you see what I mean? So what you said was so deep. I was like, it's so true. It's so true.
Now, not to be macabre, yeah? So we're going to read the next verse.
What's that word you're using? What?
Macabre.
John been reading, man.
Yeah, man, Shakespeare. Yeah, don't worry, it's not like I read Shakespeare. It's just I saw the one line and I thought, well, that's pretty decent. Rhyme too. Right? Macabre.
What does it mean, like depressing?
It's like, yeah, seriously.
Somber.
It's like deathly somber.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Wow, okay.
So
Macabre.
anyway, watch this now. Let me just paste it. Verse 5, right? Watch. Stop it, YouTube. Gee. Yeah, man, might stop. So anyway, it says in verse 5, it was by faith, same chapter, Hebrews 11, It was by faith that Enoch was taken up to heaven without dying. So hold up. He was being led of God. Yeah. He was pleasing God. And he didn't die. So Abel, yeah, pleasing God, he died. Enoch pleased God, he was being led of God fully, and he didn't die. And so it's not that God wanted, like, it's not that God's like, right, all of you, you're gonna follow me, all of you have to die. You know them ones there where, you know, certain overzealous Christians try to put it on you that you're supposed to be the missionary. You're the one that's supposed to go to Africa, yeah? Let's all go to Africa, yeah? Because Africa still needs to be converted. What? We need to be converted by the Africans. About, right? But anyway, the point is, when you hear that kind of talk where it's like, everybody needs to do the same thing, just everybody needs to hand out leaflets, or everybody needs to go to be a missionary, or everybody needs to be into health, and everybody needs to be, you know, you're just like, so you know what the opposite of that produces? If everybody has to fit into one mold, what bad does that produce? What bad does that produce? Well, the bad it produces is on a real level. Is like, imagine Enoch thought he was supposed to die when actually he was supposed to live.
Wow.
Imagine Noah thought he was supposed to not build the ark, right? But just wait for God to miraculously do something else.
Wow.
Imagine if Cain thought, or Abel thought, nah, I'm not supposed to die, I'm supposed to live.
So what you're saying then simply then, John, is the danger of that, basically following each other, not seeing God work in your own individual life, right? And following what people are saying and not understand how to discern God's providence in your own life.
Yeah.
The danger of that is you not seeing how God's working in your life, then choosing the complete dangerous opposite, something way outfield. Is that what you're saying?
Yeah, let's yeah, that's exactly what I'm saying. I will say it in this way. Jesus promises us in John 10:10, I am come that you might have life, and not just life, you know. I am come you might have life and have it more abundantly. Yeah. This is what happens. It's let me say it this way first, and I'll give you some examples. Let me say it that is. The danger is that you won't end up living the abundant life.
Right.
Because that life that people are telling you to live, God did not carve that out for you.
Right.
Remember last time we talked about certain men, they are oak trees, certain people are fir trees, certain people are this tree. We're all different sized trees. Not everybody's supposed to grow to the same heights and breadth and whatever. You know,
Right.
Everybody has their own life carved out by God, designed specifically for them. And if it's designed specifically for them, you can't step outside of God's purpose for your life and still think that you're going to have an abundant life. No wonder you're not enjoying yourself, because you ain't living the life God told you to live with him. You and him have a relationship. Let him tell you what you're supposed to do. Let him tell you whether you're supposed to live, whether you're supposed to die, whether you're supposed to be like a Noah, whether you're supposed to be like an Abraham. Noah stayed, Abraham left, you know. Let God tell you what you specifically need to do, because faith, right, being led by God ultimately is being led by his love for you. Let the love decide how you want to live for God, you know. So
I think you need to really unpack that, because that sounds... Because I just unpack that, John, because that's so simply but deeply profound at the same time.
I'll give you an example. Yeah. Creativity. I'm going to talk about creativity because I'm a creative, right? But you can throw in there your own little thing that you like, your own skills and abilities. There's a text in the Bible that says every good gift and perfect gift comes from above, yeah, and is from the Father of lights. I think that's in James, yeah. So all our gifts that we have, the ability to think, the ability to reason, the ability to be creative, to be hospitable, all the different facets of skills that a human being can possess. Yeah. So I'm gonna deal with creativity. If if the Bible is true and it came down from God, yeah, God gives you this gift, yeah, and He says, you're gonna be the creative guy, yeah, and gives somebody else, you're gonna be the cuisinier, yeah. You're gonna be the cake person and the patissier, yeah. You're gonna be the bakery. You're gonna have the restaurant. You're gonna have the dealership. You're gonna be an engineer. You're gonna be the scientist. You're gonna be this. And God just disseminates all these gifts, yeah. Now, so what happens to somebody where they got given a gift by God like creativity, they're not allowed to do because they feel they have to be a dentist. And you find this happens very often where people, for whatever reason, but mostly societal pressures and where they weren't able or even encouraged to go down that route that they actually love or what they actually enjoy doing, yeah, and they end up doing something they didn't want to do, yeah. You end up there, and it's funny how it's funny how you're not able to live that life that God actually say purpose for you because you're doing something somebody else told you to do. Now that's just a tiny, say, example of how it can happen in that practical sense. But imagine now in an ambitious sort of we're talking now faith sense. Imagine Abraham sat there in Babylon. Yeah, we can verse 8. Yeah, watch what it says. Watch what it says. Yeah, I'm going to give you an example of this.
What text are you on, John?
Hebrews 11 verse 8. Let me unpack this a bit. Yeah, and obviously if I'm going too fast, just ask a question. I'll rewind. Don't worry. Yeah. So it says here, it was by faith that Abraham obeyed God. Obeyed. Oh, well, I didn't even see the when. Yeah. It was by faith that Abraham obeyed when God called him to leave home and go to another land that God would give him as an inheritance. He went, listen, he went without knowing where he was going. Do you know there's desires God gives us, ambitions and plans God gives us, yeah? We have no idea the end of where it's going to bring us, but that doesn't mean you're not to follow it, though. That doesn't mean you're not to follow it. So, for example, I'll give you an example, yeah? When you listen to somebody's story, because I watched some of these documentaries about athletes and how they got to the heights they got to. And I watched a particular guy the other day, and they asked him, well, how on earth do you play so well? And, how did you come and get to be famous? How did you deal with that? And how did you get all these contracts for, advertising contracts like for shoe deals and sports and stuff? How did that all happen? And this is what he said. He said, when I was training in my basketball, day in, day out, and doing it when I didn't want to do it, yeah, it convicted me. It made me go all my days. It made me literally think, you know what, this one I'm going to want to share with you guys here. And even if we finish on this point, I don't mind as long as we get it. But this is what he said. And this guy's an all-star player, top tier player in the NBA, getting max dollars. And then, so they asked him, how did you get so great to where you got Adidas now coming to you, got Nike coming to you, got all these other deals and commercial. How did you deal with that? And how did you envision that and just reach after that? Because now you've reached now at top of the mountain. How did you get there? And then he says, when I was practicing day in, day out, getting up and doing it when I didn't want to do it. Yeah. And he says, I never even imagined, that I'd be hit. I could never foresee the fame that would come with it. I never knew some of these doors that's opening. I could never think that or imagine that those doors will be opening for me. Yeah, because he even saw himself as not that great of a player anyway. But he just kept on practicing, kept on practicing. So the point is, imagine now, when he was practicing and in the gym, just going at it, even when he didn't feel like doing it. And he said he had no idea where it was going to lead him. But he carried on doing it. Now, that's just them in their sphere, yeah, doing the basketball for just something entered into them, right? You can say, obviously, you can say it was God who gave the blessing. Yeah, God gave the skill, the talent for him to go and cultivate it. But this is the thing. Now imagine God is telling us, like we've just read, he is putting impressions on our hearts to go, you do this, you do that. What about this? What about that? And sometimes because our lives is not going the way we want it, we go, but really though. Or sometimes people tell us, nah, what are you doing? Go and do that instead. But we have this faith in us to say, and this is what I'll explain the other, when I was saying about just before, God has done something for us, and it's awakened in us a sense of gratefulness. Like, man, God has saved me. Yeah, he's given me family, he's given me another chance. God's, now he doesn't condemn me. He says I can overcome the world. He says all things are possible through him. He says nothing shall stand in our way. He's put all these opportunities before me. He's just told me to go at them, man, and let your mind fill up with all of that inspiration and then choose, knowing that God is behind you, knowing that God saved you for a reason, knowing that God, despite you, saves you and wants to train you to be the better version of you, even though it doesn't seem nice, even though days they get hard, and he's still in your heart. He's still, even them times when you miss the training, you miss training days, yeah? You just catch up on your sofa there, right, in front of Netflix and be like, I can't do this no more. Even those days, and God speaks to your heart though. God's faithful though, isn't he? He's still going, you should get back in the gym. You should get back there. Let me tell you on a personal note. For years, I've been in this for years, right? I'm not old, but I was baptized at 18. I'm now 38. And let me tell you, that voice has never stopped. And I'm not even perfect. Like if I had to tell somebody the same thing for 20 years, if I had to tell them the same thing over and over, and they still hasn't come up to my standard of them.
You'd quit long time.
You'd quit long time. Look how rich we get with our kids. Stop that. Stop that. Stop that. Right, that's it. Right? Thank God, yeah, he's not like that. So the point is, yeah, the way God leads, yeah, the way God leads us, he speaks to our hearts in those situations, right? Telling us, don't give up, yeah? And then watch this now. It's going to be your curveball. So in your life, providence, yeah, here's how you know God's going to give you a job. And this is going to sound mad, but it's true according to what we just read, because you ain't got one. Because it was never based upon the fact you have a job. It was based upon the fact that God is leading, and God promised life and life more abundantly. God promised the food. God promised the breath in your nostrils. God promised. And so when things happen that seem to contradict exactly what God is saying, it's not that God is not working to bring about his purposes. Just like the children of Israel, when they had to go through being thirsty, being hungry, and traipsing about the place, they took that as evidence that, man, we're never going to get to promised land. No, we're never going to get there. But hold up, I seem to remember that the reason why God didn't just straight teleport them to Canaan, straight teleport them to prosperity, straight teleport them to the blessing, the reason why he didn't is because they couldn't handle it at that time. Ain't all right? It was a 1-2 week journey. How did a 2-week journey turn into 40 years? Wasn't it them?
I'd be so vexed.
It is. Now, and this is the amazing thing about God. God was like, if I give you what I said I was going to give you, if I give that to you now, you're going to lose it. You're going to destroy it. So what I'm going to do is, why don't I wait and keep on striving with you and change you so that when I give you what I wanted to give you, you actually keep it. And now you're actually happy. You know? So
yeah, so Jonathan, what you said is accepting the values. Accepting the values. So what came to mind when you mentioned that is, you guys are your parents, you got your children in front of you. You know, so your parents, you don't give your children what they ask for straight away, because obviously you as a parent, you know your individual child, your children. So it's the same principle of God. We're not reached there yet to really appreciate the unconditional love.
Yeah.
And as you said, the children of Israel, we know where we make mistakes. We learn more from our mistakes than we do not experiencing mistakes, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
So it's that, as you said, it's that continuous journey. We've got to keep pressing forward. We're never not perfect, but if we trust and allow God to lead and claim the promises, then we will be victorious.
That's right. So let me go to this last text here.
John, before you go to that last text, it's funny what you're saying, man, because we haven't spoken this week. But go to Matthew 5. You're talking about ambition, purpose. That's what's coming to my mind anyway. God's design for each of us, yeah? Matthew 5. Now, I'm sure we're familiar with this text, but now we're going to see it in a different light. Sorry for the pun. You're going to see what I mean in a second, right? We're going to see it in a different light than we've seen it before, based upon everything you've been saying, you've been sharing with us, John. Matthew 5:13, yeah? To 16. Well, yeah, Matthew 5, starting from verse 13. All right. Now, it says, ye, or you, are the salt of the earth. All right. In fact, let me read it from the, give me a second. Let me read it from the NLT. Matthew 5. All right. Matthew 5. Here we go. So, you are the salt of the earth. But what good is salt if it has lost its flavor? Can you make it salty again? It will be thrown out and trampled underfoot as worthless. You are the light of the world, like a city on a hilltop that cannot be hidden. It's just that thought there, this idea of having to do something do something. Like, what does God want me to do? What does God want me to do? We have that question all the time. You know, we've spoken about this before, John. People come for advice and say, what should I do in my life? And today, this came to me forcibly. God says, you are the light. So it doesn't matter what you do, you are light. He says you are salt. And the salt was used as a preservative in biblical times. Still is in many different countries where they don't have fridges. So they pack the meat with salt so it preserves it for a longer time. So Jesus is not talking about flavoring food. He's saying you are the thing that preserves things from corruption. You, not what you're doing. I have to start a ministry. I have to give it a name. Have a website. These are just organizational things. Okay, that's fine. But before that, I have to go to the ministry and be a pastor, being an evangelist. No, forget all of that. You are the salt. You are light. And I've never seen it like that. I've seen it as what I do is the light. So let me try and structure something and then let's go out there and preach. And in all my years, I said and that's what settled me to now think to myself, hold up, I'm the light. So no matter what I choose to do with myself, it will be infectious. I'm the soul, and obviously it's the grace of God that makes us the soul. Obviously it's Christ dwelling in our hearts by faith that makes us the light, because Jesus says he's the light of the world. But the concept that Jesus talks in that personal sense, you are the light of the world. That to me just blows my head, and it's just adding on to what you've been saying so far. You know, if we saw it like that, I think it would be more at peace with deciding what to do with ourselves and how then to share that light, which is you basically, and what God has done in your life and your gifts, your talents, what have you.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah. So it's true. So going back to Stuart was saying about, he was using the illustration about us being parents and having kids, yeah. And it's amazing how so many things can be understood when just looking at things like, because at times it's funny, right? It's time I don't see myself as God's child more time, yeah. I see myself as God's adult, yeah, where everything I ask God for is right, yeah. Why not give it to me? Yeah, it's right, yeah. But then I remember when Aaliyah was younger, yeah, she's not 18, right? But when she was young and she used to have a bath, obviously there'll be bath products, yeah, around in the bath, yeah. And nah, she don't know what she's doing, yeah. Oh, she doesn't know what she's doing, yeah. And she took the bath spray, yeah, and then she started to just go to drink it. And I just thought, oh, I started to melt, yeah. I was like, God, yeah, you can't eat that, yeah. Can't eat that. Now, at the time, she's looking at me like, why? Why are you stopping me from killing myself? What's wrong with you? I don't like you. I knew I shouldn't come in the bath with you. You always mess up all my fun. Look at you now taking my toys from me. You're such a rubbish dad. Now, she said all of that in her look, right? You know how we think, parents, right? Our kids hate us as soon as we deny something from them. They're like, and that look says everything, right? But the thing is, it's like we don't see ourselves like that. We're like, now when you think about it, what, you don't think you've asked God for some crazy stuff. You don't think you've asked God for bleach, yeah? And you're like, I've never asked God for bleach because I'm wise, yeah? Right? Of course you must have asked God for bleach. You must have asked God for sweets and not food. You know, kids will actually subsist on sweets. No potatoes. No carrots. Broccoli. Yeah? Pain au chocolat, please. Yeah? Pain au chocolat. I will live off, like, kids will just eat whatever they want, but no vegetables and no food.
No water as well. They'll never drink a drop
Oh
of water.
my days.
Juice
all
all week,
days.
all month
They
long.
will wait until their lips have broken and parted like the Red Sea. They will wait until their tongue is just dragging on the floor, it's so dry. They will wait until their face turns like sandpaper that they can smooth down my coffee table. They will wait until they're dry of the dry. They will wait till they're dead rather than drink government juice. Yeah, they will die. Yeah? And you have to be the evil one to be like, here's some water, live. And sometimes we treat God like that. He's trying to give us water and our tongue is dry, yeah? It's all rusty and it's all mashed up and we're still asking for alcohol. We're like, no, trust me, the last time I had it, I felt good. Right? The last time I had it, it dealt with all my problems. Let me be real with you. I deal with some of my problems my way because it feels good. I don't know whether God's way is going to feel good. Yeah. Sometimes life gets so hard. Sometimes I'm like, you know what? Let me just pull it all nighter. Yeah, let me just sit here and just watch Netflix and watch all the films on Potlucker, watch all the films on 123 Movies. Don't pretend like you don't know those links. You know those links, they're quite popular, right? So sometimes I'm like, I'm just gonna ride this in 123, yeah, watch 123 Movies, and then I'm just and then when I'm too tired to worry, and I just fall down on my chair. That's how I prefer to go out sometimes. I don't like doing this. Because that takes faith, that takes trust, because I don't know what's gonna happen. Even though God has moved in other things, but this seems so big. Nah, just give me the bleach, man. Give me the alcohol. I felt dizzy with the alcohol, knocked out, woke up the next day. Yeah, just keep giving me that. And God somehow has to take you like that and make you actually desire water. How on earth are you going to make your kids like water when they hate it and they keep cussing you? How? Right? But this is how good God is. God says, but I can do it. I know how to make sinners like what I like. And it's called life. It's called me not forsaking them or leaving them. It's called me leading them. It's called me working in them to will and to do of my good pleasure. It's called me not giving up on them. It's called me forgiving their mistakes. It's called me being with them in every trial. It's called me, Jesus. It's called Jesus. And as long as you keep coming to Jesus, he will set us straight. He will put us on that life, that our life will not just be some deggy-reggy business looking worse than it was when we were serving the devil. No, it will be a life that clearly to our own eyes looks like an abundant life. My last text was this. Don't believe me? My last text was this. Jesus, when he was getting ready to leave his disciples, he asked them a question. He said, you know, when I sent you, you didn't even have an extra coat to clothe yourself. When I sent you out there, yeah, to live and work for me, you know, you didn't have no extra shoes. You didn't have no money, yeah? Times were hard. You know all them times? You know them times? And then he says, but did you lack anything? And all the disciples are like, no, we didn't lack nothing. Oh, come to think of it, we didn't lack anything. But I'm sure those same disciples complained enough times before. When are we going to be this? When are we going to be that? Why can't you just be king now? Why can't you be king now? Come on, man. Come on, Jesus. Like, allow these Romans, just bust them up. But now they're like, come to think of it, you've done pretty good. God, you've done pretty good. Yeah. You're not going anywhere now, are you? Pretty good. Hey, Peter, Peter, you think you're doing good? Yeah, I think you're doing good. Bartholomew, Matthew, Thaddeus, yeah, you, Judas. Oh, Judas not here. He's done really good. You know, right? The point is, when you're with Jesus, yeah, he promises an abundant life. He's just telling us, don't tell me how to run things. Don't tell me you ain't prepared to go there. I know that. I'm only going to give you what you can bear. Oh, my days. All my days, right? God knows us. And Jesus is all about giving us that life that's in him. And if we just trust him with our lives, yeah, forget what mistakes you might have done. Forget the mistakes you might be in now. Jesus says, as long as we come to him, he will give us rest. And he will lead us to have victorious lives. He will lead us to the place where we have, and we can show everybody, like Mike said, the light of the world. You definitely have an abundant life. And that's what's going to attract others to God as well. So that's the end of
What was your last verse, John?
Well, I just quoted.
Oh.
Luke 22:35. Let me paste it in there.
Oh, you quoted it? Oh.
Yeah. When he said, when I sent you without shoes, latchy, anything. And he said nothing.
Okay.
Hi, Eva.
Hi.
So, yeah. So, So yeah, I hope you liked the study today. And if there's any questions, obviously feel free to any questions or even comments. Feel free before Aisha and Solomon take over. Yes, I know you, Aisha. You see, you laugh because you know it's true. See, she's getting ready to talk there. Yeah, can't even contain herself.
Oi.
So yeah.
You know what, John? Actually, this is a bit of a madness that you've done this evening, because it's so relevant for me right now. I always used to sing in church. I didn't grow up in the church, but when I did come into the church, I used to sing.
Yeah.
And I'm a passable singer, like I can hold a tune. But you know them ones who gas you up, they're like, yeah, join the choir. Yeah, you got to do a special item. You got to this, you got to that. And that's what I became known for in the church. And I always used to feel like there was something else that I needed to do, that I wanted to do, but I didn't know what it was. But I let all these people lead me down this road of singing. And it wasn't even really anything that I was not a star, put it that way.
Yeah.
So anyway, when I started going to the hub, I started teaching the children's Sabbath school.
Yeah.
And it grew into this massive thing. It became this word of mouth. Children were coming from here, there, and everywhere, and we were turning it into this huge thing, to the point where even now we've been on lockdown every week without fail. These kids are logging onto Zoom to come to my Sabbath school. And we're doing performances for our churches and stuff like that. And it led me to now I'm studying for a degree to be a teacher.
Wow.
Because God showed
me. Claire.
Yes, God showed me that, you know what, this thing that you're getting led by these people to go down this, and I like singing. Who doesn't like singing? Do you know what I mean? I grew up in the 90s. That was the era. You understand? I can drop some tunes, but realistically speaking, that's not where God had me. And now I'm at a place where I'm doing this studying, and I've been, you know, offered this position in a school to work as a teaching assistant. But because of COVID, it can't happen right now. And I'm stopping and I'm starting and I'm stopping and I'm starting. And I'm thinking, what's happening? Like, I need to just get going with this. I haven't worked for 6 years because I was growing my kids and stuff like that. And it's like, I just want to do this. Then the other day I get a phone call, get told, your little one's been accepted for nursery. She's going to be transitioning from April. This is how it's going to be going down. And I'm like, oh, that's why I'm not supposed to start now. I need to be there for my 2-year-old. I need to be there for her while she's transitioning. And it come to pass that by the time she's been there a month, that's now when I'm going to be going into work for the first time in 6 years. Wow. It's all
amazing.
God was meant for it to go. But in my mind, I'm like, come on. I need to, do you know what I mean? I need to just get going. And hearing what you've said tonight, it's just come at the perfect time for me. I'm just like, yes.
Wow. Praise God, man. Wow, that's amazing. Yeah, so, yeah, man.
That is amazing. That is amazing, Claire, man. Powerful testimony. Jonathan, there's this text that I've read, that this study, now I get it now. You know, there's verses you know they're there, but you just don't get what they really mean. Psalms 27:13, it says, I had fainted unless I had believed to see the goodness of the Lord in the land of the living. So you know what you're saying is you're gonna make us experts in discerning God's providence, and that in those few words at the beginning are in italics, so they're not there in the original, right? So the NLT puts it this way: I'm confident I will see the Lord's goodness while I'm here in the land of the living. So seeing literally his goodness. So yes, study's good, we read, it's important, but like what this study is bringing out is God's providence. I've been able to see he's guiding us and leading us, and we can see that will practically help our confidence. And then we've just heard a testimony from Claire. So now I get that text and I'm like, oh, that's what it's saying. Do you see? Because obviously, the first two texts you read were to establish the principle how God leads, God guides you. God is one that makes you feel sorrowful. But the principle is God led you to desire right. God led you to desire to feel sorry, right? But generally now is how do you see him leading? Through providence, and that's not going to look pretty. Enoch went to heaven. Abel died by being faithful. So, you know, when trials are happening, how do you not know that those trials were actually God's providence in training you what you're supposed to be. So like myself, right? You know, my desire is to always want to be, quote unquote, like, you know, this evangelist or pastor or speaker. And then obviously I dropped that desire a couple of weeks ago because I realized, no, God has actually been leading me, and my purpose is what I'm doing now. I don't need a title. I don't need a station. I don't need a building or a pulpit or a name. I am my own, like, it's me. It's what I'm doing. Do you see? I'm more so my children. You see, my family. How do you know that that's not what I'm called? But that is what I'm called to do by virtue of the fact I'm a dad. There's no more important ministry. So all of that is dead now. I don't want none of it. I don't care for it no more. Oh, and the fact that, as Claire said, you know, people pushed her into, what's the number one thing people always ask me when they hear me speak? They go, oh, have you thought about the ministry? No one has ever said, have you thought about teaching? And anybody who knows me knows I prefer teaching, and I'm a good teacher. People get it when we break down the word, you see what I mean? But the fact that the culture is always about, oh, you're a speaker, go and speak. It's like, I'd rather be in a school, an academy, right? Sorry, you said, yeah.
What's ministry?
It's what we call, like, some, you know, like with Daddy, preaching, helping people. It's anything you do for God. Anything that you do for God is like a ministry. It could be anything. That's a ministry. Yeah. So it's like, I'd rather, and I've always preferred teaching in school or an academy or just teaching. I'd rather do that than preach any day. But the fact that, you know, that's in your mind all the time, because that's what people around you are saying, from high to low, family members, anytime they see me, how you feel the ministry? How you feel? And I'm like, it's not all that, I don't know. And it's only till recently, and then now again, this study has just kind of just like another evidence that God literally is leading me to the decision that I made to just, I don't even want to do that. I don't even want to do that because it's far more simpler. In fact, I know what God is telling me to do now. That's the point. Do you see? It's I know what God is telling me to do. So, yeah, man, this was a very, very good study, John. Definitely, God was in this one, man. Definitely.
Yeah. Amen.
Definitely.
So, without any further ado, we'll just pray to close. Yeah. And yeah, let's just pray to close.